Water companies face unlimited fines and penalties as part of efforts to stop raw sewage being dumped into the country's waterways. And I've got to be honest with you, I find this, I think we all do, don't we? Absolutely, utterly disgusting and deplorable. The amount of raw sewage that is being pumped into our beauty spots and our rivers, etc. So raw sewage in the UK waterways, I mean, there was 301,091 sewage spills in 2022. Discharges fell by 19% as well. Companies were fined over £141 million between 2015 and 2022. I mean, it is absolutely staggering, isn't it? Absolutely staggering when you look at that amount of money. And presumably, these water companies don't really care because they're happy to pay it and just ditch the sewage. Well, Environment Secretary Therese Coffey has revealed a number of new measures as they try to get through with companies on this issue.
We've got a comprehensive plan for water that's designed to tackle pollution at source, also how it's treated, and to increase the penalties on people who do the polluting. Well, there's been a call for evidence in the past where the government has considered it, and we've already seen some retailers like Boots and Tesco's already stop selling those wet wipes that have plastic in them. Now we're just going to complete it and just ban plastic from wet wipes for good. A lot of things that we do have to go through formal consultation first, as when we bring forward legislation, and therefore we will be making sure it gets delivered within the year.
Yes, well, there we go. I'm going to go over now to our national reporter, Theo Chikomba, who joins us from Henley-on-Thames, which is an absolutely beautiful, picturesque part of the world. It's a lovely spot, but unfortunately, you know, it's one of a number of rivers there that is being blighted by raw sewage, etc., being pumped into it left, right and centre. Theo, thank you. What do you got for us?
Yes, well, good afternoon. So we are next to the River Thames in Henley-on-Thames in Oxfordshire, and I wonder if we could just quickly have a look at the water. So here campaigners for some time have been campaigning, saying there simply is too much river discharge going into here. It's used by swimmers, rowing clubs and more. Children going here, particularly at this time of the year when it's Easter holidays, with summer coming up as well. It's particularly a concern for companies, and what the government are saying is that there's going to be tougher regulation, more fines for water companies, and of course ensuring that this problem is solved. Whether or not that's going to happen is another question. We haven't heard from the water regulator yet, Ofwat. I imagine they're still going through some of those plans which have been given by the government today. But today we've been speaking to people in this area about what they think and what they have seen, including some of those who swim in this water, and this is what they had to say.
I don't think I'd swim anywhere or ask my grandchildren to swim anywhere that didn't have a blue flag.
People come down here to do recreation, and you see them every day. Like, even through the winter, they're coming here and swimming, and the kids coming here and paddling on the water. So it's good to have clean water. My kids, we don't let them swim in the river just because I spend a lot of time on here and I see a lot of stuff in the river, and I really don't want them swimming in it.
So it's not just this area. Recent figures in Wales, Water Welsh Company, over 600,000 hours of river discharge has gone into the waters there. So it's not just here in England, it's in Wales and parts of Scotland as well. And with summer around the corner, it is particularly a concern as people will be getting into the water during the hot days. And of course, we've had some response from the opposition Labour Party saying this is just more policy which is rehashed from previous years. And also we've heard from Tim Farron from Liberal Democrats, the environment spokesperson, who's saying they're simply rehashing old ideas, particularly when it comes to wet wipes which are found in rivers across the country. So it's a tough one to look at. Whether or not we'll see change is something we'll have to see in the coming years. Some of the money that had been ring-fenced, over £1 billion, particularly on the infrastructure, has been brought forward. So potentially we could see that, and maybe less river discharge going into here, which has an impact on river diversity and, of course, those who want to use the water in this area.
Absolutely. Look, Theo, thank you very much. Theo Chikomba there, our national reporter in Henley-on-Thames. It's important as well to say this, ladies and gents. I know we have a lot of viewers where maybe in the Lake District, for example, and it isn't just rivers and it isn't just coastlines as well. Windermere, for example, could be dead, apparently, of any kind of life in 20 years' time, it's got loads of sewage pumped into it and untreated chemicals, etc. It's all of our beauty spots, really. And I am very annoyed about all of this stuff because it's unsafe, it's unsanitary, and I don't like the idea that water companies are able to get away with it. Just some other figures that I think you might find quite astonishing here. So, for more than 1.75 million hours last year, water companies released raw sewage into our rivers and seas. And that's in England. So it's just in England. So the rest of the UK, goodness only knows. There was an average of 825 sewage spills into waterways per day. And believe it or not, that's 19% lower than the previous year. So we're only just getting to grips with it. It doesn't really look like much for getting to grips with it to me, but there we go. Earlier today, the Liberal Democrats leader Sir Ed Davey visited a beach in Eastbourne, that's nice for him, isn't it, to highlight the issue of sewage harming coastlines. There he is, stroking a dog on the beach. And, yeah, there we are. That's Ed Davey at a beach there with a cockapoo. The jokes write themselves sometimes, don't they? I'm joined now, though, by Caroline Ansel, who is the Conservative MP for Eastbourne. Caroline, great to have you on the show. Look, this is an absolute shocker. And, look, I've got to say, it's been happening on your watch.
Well, what's been happening on my watch is a huge amount of work to plan for reform, to plan for change, to plan to see our water quality rise. And in fact, a local project called Blue Heart has been running for some time now, because the key issue in Eastbourne is how we manage our surface water, and to not put additional pressure on the sort of sewage system. And I met just on Saturday at one of our fabulous seafront hotels with the local swimmers and with Southern Water to look at the road ahead and how we're going to see our water quality return to excellent. So that's what's happening on my watch.
Why can't we just nationalise the waterways? I never thought I'd be saying this, but I'm looking at the amount of sewage and guff that's being pumped into them and the amount of money that we're fining these companies, and they obviously don't care about that, do they? So why don't we just nationalise them?
Well, I think you only need to look to Scotland as an example of why we might not tread that particular path. But there is significant and serious investment coming down the line. We recognise that this is a really important priority. And of course, for towns like Eastbourne, we rise and fall on our hospitality businesses, and the sea is our most important natural asset. Even today, on such a day as this, the sun is shining, there is nowhere more beautiful. And it's everything that people enjoy about living here and people enjoy about visiting here. So our water quality is mission critical. And I'm really pleased today, actually, even as recently as just this morning, I had a very constructive meeting with the owner of the pier, and we're looking to host the new sort of Proteus pilot, because data is king. And this new pilot is going to inform all the investment to come and to broker the very necessary change. But one of the reasons why in Eastbourne we've seen some decline in our water quality has been less around the sewage outflows and more about misconnections in the town. So this comes back to local planning, building control. So all of those issues, we need to chase those down too.
Can I ask, I know a lot of people will be looking at this now and thinking that, you know, if they drop a bit of litter, that's a criminal offence. If they do some misdemeanour, they get a fine and they can find themselves in court for an unpaid parking ticket. But I could pump thousands of tonnes of raw sewage into a river in England and, well, I'd get a fine. Why can't we criminally prosecute the people who are the chief executives of these companies, you know, at the very least, maybe make them swim in it or something, a bit of rough justice?
Well, I talk about rough justice because the sort of director that came from Southern Water, he went out into the water on Saturday with our swimmers. He said it was cold, but really enjoyed the experience. Look, it will change culture and it will change priorities and how resources are used for these companies when they are now tied to their environmental performance. So I anticipate that we will only see now year-on-year improvement. But I don't think we can underestimate how complicated, complex this situation is. We're talking about, I think, 500,000 in terms of kilometres of pipes. We're talking about something of serious gargantuan ambition to really wrestle with this Victorian sewer situation and take us to a new place.
All right, Caroline, thank you very much. Caroline Ansel there, the Conservative MP for Eastbourne. Look, Clive's been on. I'm going to say I agree with Clive on this. He says, Dear Patrick, fining water companies isn't the answer because they will just pass that on to the consumer. So there you go. We pay for it twice, don't we? We pay for it in the fact that we've got a river that stinks of goodness knows what and all the animals are dying, and then we fine the company and then your water bills go up. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. Your water bills have gone up. Mine certainly have. And what are we paying for? For them to ditch a load of sewage into your local river or the coastline? It's absolutely shocking. He says the company directors should face jail and stripped of their money, and then you'll see a difference, Clive. I like the way you think. GB Views at gbnews.uk.